Hello, folks. Welcome back to Reality Check with Arvind Swaminathan. Please, this particular video, please look at very carefully from start to finish, because the second half is even more important than the first half, because it's something very few, if any person has actually thought of it. Okay? Now, let's just begin on this note. May I welcome you all to the Islamic Republic of India. Yes, you heard right. I said the Islamic Republic of India, because that is the name of this particular game. If you remember, when the Taliban took over Afghanistan, one of the leaders was interviewed, and he said, India is how shall I put it, an unfinished business. It's a work in progress. And what was that? The Islamization of India. Now, most of us wouldn't have believed it possible, and yet it's happening. You see, this is the surreptitious or secret way in which the Congress Party, since 1947, has been working to make us an Islamic Republic. History records, for instance, Iran was a country where the religion was Zoroastrianism, which means the Parsi faith. They allowed a few Muslims in. In 30 years, all Parsis had either been driven out, killed, or converted to Islam. Most Parsis who managed to escape, a lot of them came to India. And they're still here. They're a respected community in this country, and they feel safe and they feel quite happy. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said of all the Muslims who stayed behind from 1947 onwards. It seems their sole agenda anywhere is to convert or drive out anybody who is not Islamic. Now let's see. This Waqf Board Act, who brought it in? The Congress government under Narasimha Rao. It's the Waqf Board Act 1995. Just before that, in 1991, was the Places of Worship Act 1991, also brought out by the Narasimha Rao government. Now, what is unique about this? It restricts Hindus, particularly Hindus, from claiming or reclaiming land which Muslims had taken away, where temples had been demolished, mosques built on top of the ruins. It stopped all that because it froze the status quo as of August 15, 1947. Now, Hindus could not take back land which had been taken away for mosques. Now, it may have sounded very benign and so on, okay, secular country and all that. But what came with this Waqf Board Act is so diabolical, it beggars belief. How could it have been allowed? What was the law ministry doing all this time? Had they no inkling about the vast powers given to the Waqf Board by this act, this Waqf Board Act of 1995? They don't have any idea? If they don't, what are they doing in the law ministry? What are so-called eminent lawyers like Kapil Sibal, P. Chidambaram, very well known, very huge fees they charge? What were they doing? They were all part of the Congress government. Please remember also, Manmohan Singh was a part of that Narasimha Rao government. I think he was finance minister. And Sonia Gandhi was a sitting Congress MP in Lok Sabha who supported this bill. Now, what is it so unique? What is it so unique about this bill or this act? For one thing, anybody, any Muslim can point the finger and say, this land belongs to the Waqf Board. And ergo, from that day on, it belongs to the Waqf Board. If anybody raises a hue and cry, all they say is, okay, we'll conduct a survey, which will be another Muslim surveyor, and they will say, yes, this is Waqf Board land. It will then be registered as Waqf Board land. And once that is done, the Waqf Board can now order, please remember the word order, the DM and the SP in the area to evict everybody else from that property and give that to the Waqf Board. And they have to comply with that order. It's not a request to them, it's an order. The Waqf Board can also declare who is an encroacher on that property and who needs to be thrown out. Now, the odd thing about it is, why was it so secret? Why was no explanation given? Why was no publicity given to this act at the time? Or any time between then and now? 27 years have gone by, and what happened? Most of us never heard of it. And even today it would not have come to light had the Waqf Board in Tamil Nadu not become quite so greedy and claimed 6 whole villages. One of those villages had a temple which is about 14 or 1500 years old. It was built by one of the Chora kings. How did that come under Waqf Board land? And if that is so, what about the 1991 Places of Worship Act? Is that redundant now? You don't need it? Is it superseded by the Waqf Board Act? It certainly looks like it. Because the temerity with which the Waqf Board has claimed that temple land, and there are about 389 acres of land with it, all that is also now transferred to the Waqf Board. How? Why? Not only that, a couple of years ago in Gujarat, the Waqf Board claimed that the Somnath temple was on Waqf Board land. And when their trustees and their priests got together and said, you take a hike, you take a long walk of a short pier, the Waqf Board took them to court. And of course the Gujarat High Court threw it out. Possibly because of the 1991 Places of Worship Act. But they didn't stop them. In fact, in Mathura, the Waqf Board has claimed the Krishna Janma Bhumi land, or the birthplace of Lord Krishna. That land is being Waqf Board land. How is this possible? Now, the strange thing is, the Waqf Board does not have to prove anything. They claim the land, it's theirs. They claim a property, it's theirs. And there's nothing you or I can do about it. You want to raise a hue and cry, you want to challenge it, you can't take them to the High Court. You can't take them to the local district court. You can't take them to the Supreme Court. There's only one place you can challenge that. And that is, you have to go to the state capital in every state, get hold of the Waqf Board tribunal and place your case in front of them. Now this tribunal is purely a Muslim court. It's a 7-bench tribunal. Each one is a Muslim. For instance, there's a Muslim IAS officer, a Muslim member of parliament, a Muslim MLA, a Muslim cleric, a Muslim lawyer, and a Muslim city or town planner. And there's one more. I can't understand what that particular position is. But all 7 are Muslims. Now, do you think you can go there and stand a chance of even being heard, let alone get a favorable reply or answer or decision in your favor? Well, you may, when hell freezes over. Even that isn't possible. Why? With all this global warming, how can hell temperatures reduce? They're going further up. Now you understand the full extent of that law. It has been handed over to Muslims free of charge. They don't have to pay you 1 paisa. They say it is ours, it is theirs. That's it. This came out in recent diggings. The UPA government, March 5th, 2014, less than 2 weeks after the general election had been notified, there are 123 properties in Delhi which the UPA government was going to purchase, but it was claimed by the Waqf board in Delhi. March 2nd, there was a cabinet meeting, which cleared this, and Manmohan Singh, the then Prime Minister, informed the Additional Secretary of the Urban Planning Ministry that, look, we are withdrawing all our claims. Please register this land in favor of the Delhi Waqf Board. 123 prime properties in Delhi worth thousands of crores. And they didn't pay 1 cent for it, not 1 paisa, nothing. It just went over to them. And all this was a secret note, not even a public note, where people would see it and begin to raise a hue and cry. Now the Congress has been doing this since 1947. It is their way of turning India into an Islamic state. You remember Article 30 and 38? I've mentioned this in one of my earlier videos on the Constitution. You can teach Islam, you can teach Christianity, but you are not allowed to teach Hinduism anywhere. Not in schools, colleges, temples, nowhere. Why? Why are you trying to wipe out Hinduism from this country? And this Waqf Board Act completes the job. Because according to this, they can take over any land. You are just saying this is Waqf Board property. And there's no way you can do anything about it. Fortunately, the Supreme Court has now demanded proof that it is Waqf Board property. And in some cases, they've actually said, no, it is not Waqf Board property, which is a welcome sign. But how often? Now, what most people don't understand about this is the further outcome of this. The Waqf Board can now take over every square inch of land without paying 1 paisa for it. And nobody can do anything. The only place they can complain is the Waqf Board Tribunal, which is theirs. It's a loaded debt you're up against. There's nothing you can do. Now, this is the first part. What is the second part? Now, none of the news channels have gone this far because they don't understand it. It means this. The Waqf Board is already the third largest holder of land in this country, behind the Indian Railways and the defence people. They may actually be the second, just behind the railways by now. And remember, this has been going on for 27 years. What was the law board doing? What was the law ministry doing? What was the entire legal system, this army of lawyers we have all over the country? What were they doing? Are you telling me they didn't know? Nobody knew? I mean, we're as close to being an Islamic state as can be, and nobody realizes it? Narasimha Rao's government had abdicated all responsibility and handed it over to the Waqf Board. The Waqf Board now supersedes the President of India, it supersedes Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, it supersedes every state government, it supersedes the High Court, and it supersedes the Supreme Court. It is the de facto law of this country. And remember, the Waqf Board Tribunal is a Sharia law court. It's a Sharia or Muslim court. How many of us know anything about Sharia law? Do we stand any chance of getting anywhere? No. Once that land has come into the possession of the Waqf Board, what is the next step? And here's where the mind boggles. They can now decide who are the people who are squatting on their land. And they can order the DM and the SP to remove those squatters. That means you and I cannot live in our own property, we can be evicted. And the DM and the SP have to comply with that order from the Waqf Board as per law, as per this act. They decide and they can say anybody is encroaching on their land and has to be thrown out. And there is no appeal against that. Can you understand this? Now, once that law is in their hands and they own all this property, you and I will have to pay them rent to live on our own property. We can't get away without doing so. Then they can charge you a jizya tax for not being Muslim. They can charge you a halal tax, halal certification tax, any other tax they choose. And if we want to stay here, we have to pay as per this act, because it is their land now. Once you've decided that these taxes are there, you have one of two options. One, leave this country and go somewhere else. All this if you're not an Islamic person, if you're not a Muslim. 1.1 billion Indians are not Muslim. You expect them all to leave? Where? Where will they go? En masse? How long will it take? How much suffering will be caused in between? Any idea? The other alternative is, if you don't want to go away, you have to embrace Islam and become a Muslim. Now you understand what that Taliban top official said. India was a work in progress. You understand now. Islamization is now a fait accompli. Unless this particular Modi government gets back to Delhi and via an ordinance repeals this act. And not only repeals it with a rider. A rider which says all land taken over by the Waqf boards all over the country must be returned. I mean, the registry must be scrapped. And it must be returned to the previous or the rightful owners. And if possible, they should be asked to pay compensation to the people who had to suffer as a result of this act. Not just the Waqf board, maybe the Congress party should be made responsible, because they're the people who brought all this about. People have suffered. A lot of people end up with heart attacks. I mean, who knew about this? Nobody. Even in Tamil Nadu, where 6 villages were grabbed at one go virtually, nobody knew about it until one man who wanted to sell some of his ancestral property to raise money for his daughter's wedding. He found a buyer for that land, accepted the money, went to the registrar's office for registering it in favor of the buyer, and he was told, you can't do it. You have to go to the Waqf board to get a no objection certificate. Which means he was told at that point that it isn't your land, it belongs to the Waqf board. Can you imagine what kind of a shock? Not just he, but the whole villages felt when they suddenly find we don't own this land. How did it disappear? We got all the papers to prove that our ancestors bought this land, paid for it, all the necessary documents we have, but we still don't have it. It belongs to the Waqf board. How? You see, the Waqf board does not have to tell you that we've claimed your land. The registrar's office will not tell you that the Waqf board have claimed your land. Do you have anything to say? They simply say, if you keep quiet for a year after that claim, it's Waqf board property. You wake up one day to find you can't sell it, you can't buy land there, nothing. You can't do anything. all because of that Waqf Board Act of 1995. It has, as I said earlier in this video, when I said welcome to the Islamic Republic of India, I wasn't joking. It is almost a fact of life. Please understand this. You cannot sit on your behind and keep quiet on this. If action is not taken fast, we have no way to go. This was the Congress plan and Nehru's plan to wipe Hinduism off the face of India and turn us into an Islamic country. Thank you, folks. Please take this one seriously, because if you don't, even God can't help you. This is something which has to be looked at seriously, redressed, and if the Modi government does not repeal this act, all the good work it has done will go by the board. So like it or not, action has to be taken, the proper action. The rest I'll leave with all of you. All of you have to get up, get together, and if necessary, make the Modi government take action. If they can have a farmers' revolt or a farmers' agitation going on that long, Shaheen Bagh and says, I think we can do something too. Why? Something needs to be done. If there's no other way, we have to resort to this. Peacefully, no violence, please. But I don't advocate going out on the streets. I don't like it. And that would be an absolutely last resort. It is the same Waqf Board Act, which, in case you haven't connected the two, which has given Muslims so much power. There are all these other things come out. The hijab controversy, the halal controversy, the halal certification scheme controversy, Shaheen Bagh, Jahangirpuri riots, the beheading of people. They can say anything against Hinduism, but you mustn't say anything against Islam, even though it is the truth, it is written in the Quran and in the Hadith. No, you mustn't bring that up. No. That is the power they feel they have. And they continue to bring in Bangladeshis into India, mostly illegally, at the rate of over 1 million a year. Remember, from 1971 to now, 51 years, 2 years ago, all news channels agreed there were 6 crore or 60 million Bangladeshis living in India. And that figure keeps going up every year. Successive Congress governments have ensured that the border between Bangladesh and India is very porous. Trying to patrol that area is one heck of a job. And how do they get spread out? Well, every Muslim organization from Bangladesh through to Delhi and up north and going south via Chhattisgarh and Hyderabad. They all help out because these people are Muslims and they want to swell their numbers. Remember, since 1947, Muslim numbers have swelled 15 times, from 21 million to over 300 million. All the other groups put together have grown from 330 million to 1.1 billion, which is only 3 times. And a good chunk of those are from Bangladesh. 60 maybe, by now 70 million, we don't know. Now you begin to understand what organizations like the PFI, finance and so on, your Love Jihad, again reducing the numbers of Hindu by enticing away Hindu girls. I mean, all this is pre-planned. It's part of a a plan that's been going on since 1947. It's not new. So let's get our act together, all of us others, whether we are Hindus, Sikhs, Jains, Buddhists, Jews, Parsis, anybody. We better get together because our existence is in danger. And you better believe it, it is. So time for action. The choice is yours. You can look at it and turn around and say, it's not my job. It is. Like it or not, it is. This apathy has been going on far too long. You're up against a very militant group of people who have stopped at nothing. As I said, time to take action. Well, folks, thank you for listening. And please treat this seriously. Please send it to all your friends and relatives. Send it to your groups and ask them to send it on to their other groups. The more people who see this, the more they might think about waking up from their Rip Van Winkle type of slumber. Because if Rip Van Winkle does not wake up, then what I said at the beginning, welcome to the Islamic Republic of India, will be a fait accompli. So please subscribe and pass on to everybody else, your groups, other people's groups, wherever you can. The more people that see this, the better. Well, thank you folks. See you next time.